Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest, his name is Chris Long. He is the founder and CEO of Longyards Storage, a trailblazer in the industrial storage franchising sector. Starting his entrepreneurial journey with door-to-door sales at just 12, Chris has always demonstrated a passion for innovation. From building a successful construction company to transforming the landscape of industrial real estate, Chris used his business talents to establish the first Longyards storage facility. And he is here to tell us a little bit more about his story, about investing in these storage yards, about what he does, and how you can make it a part of your business strategy. So, Chris, welcome onto the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks, Allison. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so I think we should just kick things off at the beginning. I would love to hear a little bit more about you, how you got started in real estate. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career journey that's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, great. I'll try to do the quickest summary I can. I don't know what the click was as a young kid, but I just love the idea of owning real estate. And I was just being the type of person who wasn't afraid to knock on doors and, make things happen. It was engraved in me that if you want life, you got to go and get it. And I started early selling chocolate bars. And then I'm just a builder by nature. Like I grew up in a blue collar world, grandfather helping him build furnaces as a kid. So I was just, I wanted to do something where there was a lot of accomplishment involved. And when I finally graduated high school, I got into college. And, it's funny. I was like, what do I do? I love real estate, but I don't want to be an agent. It's funny, a lot of agents here, but I didn't like that world too much. And it's just like, it wasn't for me. I wanted to be a little bit more of a builder. So anyways, got into carpentry, got into construction, became a licensed carpenter, did that for about 7 years, and quickly opened up a company named after my grandfather, Joe Conrad Heating. And I ran that for about 10 years. And during the two worlds mixing of me loving real estate and also trying to find a niche, like I bought my first house, bootstrapped it, turned it into a duplex, did it again, turned it into a duplex. I'm like, okay, I got something going here. I like this. Quickly discovered in Canada that the laws are all favored towards the tenants, right? So they don't have to pay for it took a year, I kid you not. And the final straw was at court, the judge said, you need to give them a positive letter of referral to allow them to leave your house and pay them. And that's after a year of no payment. So I was like, okay, at this point, I still love real estate, but I'm done with that game. And then it all stumbled with Longyards when I needed the space as for equipment storage. And then I was like, I'm just going to go all in. I sold both my houses because no investor would back me. They're like, what, you want to do storage yards? You're crazy. I've never seen that. And I was like, I'm a simple guy. I'm like, if I need it, somebody else does. And that's how it started. I built it. And now here we are with over 10 locations on the way. I moved from Canada to the US, kind of burned the ships to get to the island. So it's been a journey, and I'm excited to dive into any topics we feel necessary. But one location changed my life. And now I'm on a mission to do that for many other people around the internationally.
Yeah, no, what I think is really cool about this topic is because I don't think we've ever talked about storage yards and, just the opportunity that exists within them. So I'm really excited to hear you kind of talk a little bit more about that. I would love to hear the story of your first project as well. But first, I want to hear about your company, founding that. Talk to us a little bit about what you all do at Longyards and kind of your mentality and thought process behind starting this company.
Yeah. So it's funny. It all started with the first location, and it was quite literally a long yard. So people might think Chris Long.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But it was kind of a synergy of many things coming together. And it was, the lot is 200 feet by 2,000. And people are like, this is a long yard. And I'm like, it kind of started from the beginning. But I mean, the one deal really changed my life. I went from a carpenter, went from a small business owner. We had 12 employees at one point. And you being in construction, you really have to earn your keep, right? Everybody knows it's tough. But I just love real estate and love cash flow. And when I was looking at different options to really scale, because I couldn't scale doing one house at a time, bootstrapping, do the next one, bootstrapping. There's so many different things that change and every job's different. It's just for me, it wasn't the way to go big. So yeah, with the one location, I mean, it created financial freedom. I bought it for 470,000, put around 700,000 into it, and not long after, it got appraised at 3.6 million. Now it's worth easily over 4 million, and it literally changed my life, allowed my family to move out to Florida and pursue this internationally. So that was just a little bit about the first location and everything coming together, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's really awesome. I love that you were able to kind of see that growth and really take off with it. I want to talk specifically about storage yards. What are they? Why do they make for a great investment? Are there certain things like did you ever think that this was going to be the direction you were going to go into, or talk to us a little bit about just the basics of storage yards and why you saw it as a great opportunity?
Yeah, so like I'm a pioneer. So with self-storage, it was the guys who really like cleaned up at the beginning before the world knew it was self-storage. And that's what contractor storage yards are, in my opinion. And I'm bull in, so I'm the most bullish guy you can ask, right? But a lot of like iOS is kind of becoming a hot topic. Industrial outside storage, people are getting familiar with that term. And when people start thinking of iOS, they think of industrial real estate. And then there's a lot of just great synergies that make it so powerful. I mean, it's the service-based businesses that we've seen during, COVID or different types of the economy that these guys, they keep going. This is like the logistics of the backbone of our economy. So, and a lot of people, I try to relate Longyards as much as I can to self-storage because it's almost as relatable as possible. I mean, it has a low failure rate. The cash flow economics are amazing. It's very lendable. The banks love it. It's very low operational for operations. So we're bringing the industrial real estate to self-storage using the contract storage yards, and it looks simple, but like it's not easy. And it's like I always describe it as like the iceberg. Everyone looks at the top, like, oh my god, this is a yard on a property. It's like, yeah, go through everything we've had to identify these properties, underwrite it, get the banking, all that stuff. It's definitely not fun or easy, but it is a trend. And what's unique about the storage yard, so just for people listening, sometimes I got to explain it like 6 different ways. It's like, think of, I have one 10-acre property in Canada. That's our first corporate location. And it's 67 yards inside of a yard. So just for like context, because people might still not be getting this, like, and I got to explain it sometimes. I try, it's like industrial self-storage yards for contractors. So we have 67 yards in one yard. And each yard, as simple as it sounds, it's your own little fenced in compound, similar to self-storage. You go to the facility, you roll up the gate, you walk in, you store your boxes. Ours is for the big stuff, right? Trailers, equipment, everything else, but everything else stays the same. Our software, our self-storage gate, cameras, and we've evolved with the innovation with the long boxes. They're containers that fold and unfold, the offices that fold and unfold, the cameras, the power, everything else that just really squeeze the lemon from a location. And more importantly, go to the business owner, which was me. And I always ask myself, what do these guys need? And so, yeah, a lot to unpack there, but it's basically a supply and demand. I mean, if you look on the marketplace, you go on your local LoopNet or Crexy, and you try to find a yard for 2,000 to 20,000 square feet that's turnkey, ready to go month to month. It doesn't exist. Those don't exist. So we found a hole in the market, and we're taking over.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that was going to be kind of one of my next questions too, is how do you identify, places where you want to make this investment? What do you look for in a property when it comes to this?
There's a lot. You got to think of like a big funnel, and we just try to kill locations that don't work as quick as possible. And the top of the funnel is like just the economics of the price per acre versus the actual rate. And then you have zoning, and then you have local building requirements, then you have the underwriting. And then once you have it there, then it goes through the funnel of the actual dirt. As there easements, strength of the soil. We have a tier land approach. So then it goes to the marketing. What's our avatar in the area? How many of them are there? What's the growth of the businesses? How many new developments are there? So like, there's so many different steps that go into that. We've literally just been evolving and evolving as we grow this business from a small business now, which is expanding quite substantially. We're discovering there's always a new layer of nuance, but that's a lot to unpack in one thing. But there's a few main points for people, if it's a location that's close to like a main artery of a highway, and it's probably a population of about 50,000, and the zoning is high, heavy industrial. Those are a few check marks that kind of make like an obvious location, but there's so much more that goes underneath it than that really we could almost do an entire episode on it. But I kind of like to keep some of our secret sauce a little close because there's so much we've been researching and developing, but for at least people trying to understand it, yeah, those are a few things you got to be mindful of.
Yeah, no, I think it's really fascinating to see kind of how you identify those projects, what makes good opportunities versus what doesn't, and what you look for. But yeah, absolutely. Is there like a biggest lesson that you have learned for going through this process, or if you had to say like your biggest takeaway or thing that you've learned as you've worked at Longyards and developing this and doing all of the storage yards, what would your biggest lesson be that you've learned throughout all of this?
That's a really great question. I feel like different lessons come with different pain points at a different time. And one of the biggest things is just like appreciate the patience. So I think the lesson is just to remind myself that great things take time and just keep plowing through it. Because literally, it almost took 2 years of like constant research, understanding, digging through new levels. And the market gives you feedback of what you don't know. And like, you have this like energy as a young entrepreneur, you're just trying to make everything work. And, you're so optimistic, but then the market kind of kicks you like 8 times. And you're like, okay, this is what I need to know. So the biggest lesson is just like remember that it's a patience game and keep moving and just keep going forward. And like that took like 2 years. So it's just now there's new lessons coming my way and I just appreciate them. And I try not to get overwhelmed with everything happening in front of me and just like, it's just part of the process.
Yeah, and I think that that's important. You know what I mean? Like, one, be patient. Like, things don't happen like this overnight, and just knowing that every experience, everything you go through, can be, a learning opportunity, and being able to learn and grow from those pain points, as you mentioned. Really, that's a great perspective to have, and I think that's really special. And so, as we're talking about pain points, was there a specific challenge or a big hurdle that you had to kind of jump over? Or what challenges have you faced as you built up this company?
Yeah, I'll try to answer the best way I can. Like the biggest thing has been a mindset battle. And I like to describe me building long yards as like building a chain with one link at a time. And I literally have to have the entire chain in place before I can move things forward. And I have a lot of weaknesses in a lot of areas. I have strengths. I've been doing construction my entire life. I can oversee development. I have a good depth of knowledge with that. I'm innovative. I don't mind knocking on doors and kind of talking to people, but there's a lot of underwriting I have to learn, doing the business plans, doing contracts for new partners. And there's just been so many, and each one is like a link to the chain and marketing and advertising. And I got to go and work on this link just till it's strong enough to keep dragging it until the next week becomes, the weakest link. And then I'm go building that. So there's been lesson after lesson. And one of the hardest things, because I was a contractor for so long, is I'm kind of used to like instant gratification. Like I can, when I was framing basements or framing houses or I did coffered ceilings and high end carpentry in 1 or 2 days, you're like, wow, this feels amazing. Now everything is like, I got to get excited about an Excel program. It's just like, that wasn't any exciting. 2 years ago, I'd be like, I just want to like throw my laptop as far as I can and never look at Excel again. Now, because I've actually discovered the appreciation for it, I'm excited to like go through the iterations of the Excel platform to just give me the results of that again, that link in the chain that makes me grow and move to the next phase. So there's just been a lot of different lessons along the way. And it's just, yeah, going back to appreciating the process is I think the most underlying asset.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great outlook to have, a great perspective to have, is embracing the good, the bad, the painful, the exciting. And I think that's true, for a lot of people, is that we may not love every single thing that we do every day, or every single thing that encompasses our job or whatever we're doing that day, but just finding the joy in the things that we do enjoy, and then like learning and growing and just appreciating even the things that we don't necessarily enjoy or love.
This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university. With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations.
I would love to hear a little bit more about, just you as a CEO. What are some of the things that kind of you have on your radar? I know you're not able to really share too much about what's coming down in the future, but tell us as a CEO, what are your plans for the company and what are you hoping to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the plans for the company is just like change people's lives from the partners coming in, whether it's a franchisee or a corporate partner, which we can unpack, and then making also a big difference in the actual community. So like it's really like a twofold change process between the people actually on the higher level, kind of making sure the project happens, and then in the one deal we're looking at in Corpus Christi, it's 52 yards, and these are going to be yards for small businesses that need an affordable space, can't have had a hard time finding one, and now it's coming to fruition for them and everything else that comes along with it. So I mean, it's just such, the person who walks the farthest, the person that loves walking. And like with long yards, I kind of put it in that perspective is just trying to make a difference to many people's lives as you can. And the more people you change, it'll change for you. So, we have on the franchise side, it's kind of like more of a land arbitrage play. And this is in the right market. So someone's like, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to get involved. We've built an entire franchise system. We have franchisees. And it's almost like Airbnb for housing, except for land, where you go find the land, you put the long yards model, cash flow arbitrage. There you go. Where on the corporate side, it's more of like a bigger chunk to bite. And that's where we kind of do a partnership and we actually put skin in the game. So it's a little bit of different play, but we're both kind of biting it together to take it down because we were approved federally by SBA, which is really cool. So if anyone's looking on, they go to the SBA directory, you'll see long yards. And because it's hard to get lending because we're so new, the government did back us. So it's funny. My business got approved, but I can't get approved because I'm Canadian and I don't have a green card. So it kind of forces me to be creative to find all these partners to make things work. So anyways, it's a lot to unpack there, but that's our vision for the future is bring a lot of people in and change lives.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really great. And you mentioned just the partners and who you try to work with and being creative with, how to get other funding sources. How do you go or what's your approach as far as like reaching out to partners and how do you kind of approach that aspect of it and finding people to work with?
Yeah. So I try to do it in as much of an organic fashion as possible. So for now, it's mostly actually been podcasts, and I get like more highly qualified leads that are people that like to make things happen and more serious. Besides that, networking events, I'm always at like family office events or that, and just talking and getting the word out there. Plus, I'm learning about how to grow my business. Most of the time, it's kind of like people just stumbling. They're like, hey, I like what you're doing, and I'm not really pushing too hard because like we have a lot on our plate, and I want to really execute on the first few locations really well, and we have good momentum. So at this point, if leads are coming in organically, great. But I'm not pushing too hard for new ones. But that's kind of where it's at. It's been mostly podcasts and networking.
No, that's really great. And I love hearing that. Maybe, who knows, maybe somebody listening, would be interested in reaching out. So where does somebody start if they're interested in the storage yard investing world? I mean, how do we begin? What should be the first steps? Walk us kind of through, how you would approach that and what your process would be if we're someone that's first starting out in this and may not be sure where to start.
Yeah. So at first, it's obviously we have a questionnaire that we run everybody through, and this kind of like gets a feeler for their goals, their pain points, their experiences, full transparency, liquidity. Can they do it? Are they comfortable signing on the debt? So the first thing is like if you want, if anyone wants to learn more, reach out. Get ready for a questionnaire. Just like we want to make sure that it's a good fit. Once we go through that, we jump on a call, do a little meet and greet. And assuming everything's good at that point, it's a good fit. Your market's available. We've had people now reaching out and their market's no longer available. So it is a territorial business play. And after that, you talk to our lenders, you get a warm, a green light, making sure that everything's checking the boxes, at least on phase one underwriting. So once it's good from, make sure it's a good fit and the banks are giving you the green light. So we know it's possible. We know what your budget is, what kind of size land you can shop for. At that point, we created, this might be a little funny, but we created what's called the go long or go home guarantee. So what this is that people can secure their territory, and we're doing this for a short period of time. I'm probably going to stop soon, but it's for $5,000. That's it. At that point, we literally open the book to you. Like, here's our underwriting process. Here's how we find deals. Here's, how you basically dissect everything. We merge you with our agents. We also have operators that are going to help find lead flow, bring it towards you. And at this point, we're kind of going from like talking to dating a little bit. That's the way I like to describe it. Because, if if I'm working with a partner and they're not actually working, full transparency, I don't want to work with you because you don't work. I want people that can get things done. So it's actually a mutually beneficial little experience. And so once we do the go long, go home, we're both putting an effort to move the ball forward, find a location. You know the tools, you got the know-how. At that point, before an offer is placed, that's when we decide, okay, are we moving together with an agreement and or not? So that's basically the phase we've been breaking it out to move forward with partners. Because I just stress I had a construction company for 10 years, and it's easy to get too big too fast, and it's hard to take steps backwards. So at this point, we're so filtered with our search of who we work with and how we work with them, and that's basically the steps of moving forward with Longyards.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great. It sounds like you have a good process, a good way to vet individuals interested, to make sure that everyone is going to get, what they're expecting to out of those partnerships. So I think that's really great. How do you manage it all, Chris? How do you manage, being the CEO, running this company, making sure partners and investors are happy, identifying new things? How do you approach just kind of time management and handling and managing it all? And what's your kind of way that you keep yourself sane when you're dealing with so much else around you?
That was a good question. I think there's a balance, and there's a few pillars in life that you need to be standing on, and one or two of them could be a little weak, but you need overall foundation. That's like a good family around you. I've got my wife; she's super supportive. I've got I do boxing. I go to the gym often, so I'm quite active. And so with work, it could kind of fluctuate with stress and stuff. But as long as I have the other pillars, it's good. And then also like I was selling chalkboards when I was 12, not to make money because I had to buy clothes. So to me, like I don't know anything else. Like this is actually kind of easy because I've been working 2, 3 jobs. I shouldn't say easy, it's just different. But I've been working 2 or 3 jobs since I was high school. Running my construction company, I'd work 7 to 5 as an apprentice carpenter. And most people are exhausted, but I'd do weekend and evening jobs. And then in the evenings, I was pricing jobs. So it's just been like engraved in my DNA since I was a kid that it's just the way it is. Like I don't know anything else but like moving the ball forward and working hard. So it's what I love. I just got to remind myself to like take it easy sometimes. So and then now my new challenge is like building a great team. Like obviously I have bandwidth. There's only so much I can do, and I'm constantly creating those SOPs, and I'm documenting everything I'm doing and writing it down and creating that org chart for who do I need when. And right now we do have a small team around us, so it is really helpful. But I could see we're going to need a lot of people soon, and it's good problems.
Yeah, no, all good. Those are fun growth pains, right? Means good things are coming, means a lot of expansion. But I think that's so important. Taking time for yourself, making sure that you are taking care of yourself and showing up as the best self that you can be every day. And you mentioned so much that this is just ingrained in you. And you mentioned about your grandfather and him having his own company. Was that kind of somewhere where you picked that up? Was from learning from him and just seeing that constant, work ethic?
Yeah. My grandfather was he didn't say much, but it was the messaging. So like he would just work. Like, and it was the greatest lessons because like when I was 14, I was helping him fix air conditioners and furnaces in houses. And it was like freezing. It was cold. You didn't want to do it. Spiders and cobwebs are crawling through a crawl space. And I was like, why am I doing this? And then boom, you flick the switch on, you get the furnace on, and then like the family's house is warm. And like he didn't say much, but he just got things done. And that's what I love. Like I don't, as much as I love podcasts and to get a name out there, like give me the work and give me the work to do. And that's what I love doing. So that was what I learned growing up. And I kind of feel like it's just a bit of like a dying, it's just less common, So I don't know. It's just who I am. Like, I just love to work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, there's a lot that they could be falling off from that perspective with that mentality to just work, and that's just what we do, and we're gonna do it, and that's it. And so I agree with you on that. And I think that's really cool that you got to learn those values and that mentality from your family. And I think that's really special. I also want to talk about, what advice do you have for someone getting into storage yards? I know you mentioned kind of a little bit earlier about just take things, go with the flow, learn from every experience. But what advice would you give to other people interested? What do you advise the individuals that you work with when it comes to this business, and share with us a little bit of what advice you would have.
Yeah. So I would say, just start by educating yourself, learning about the industry a little bit. We got an Instagram platform and YouTube, and I'm trying to educate people as much as possible. So Chris Longyards is our Instagram, and we're posting a lot of, what makes a great storage yard there. And then you can always start, if you're interested, you just ask contractors, or if you got blue collar people in your family, be like, what's it like trying to find a storage yard, and they'll be like, oh my God, like that doesn't exist. So the people that get it immediately get it. But other people that are like, is this a cool business? Like, does this really work? And then they start asking around. It's like the light bulb quickly goes off. And I mean, it's tough to say, but the numbers just outperform like anything else. Like a lot of people are chasing these single family homes, or even multifamily is getting very saturated, and it's a great market. I can't knock multifamily. It's just, you're seeing a lot of stress because of the hot raising rates, and you got a lot of capex. Like what's beautiful about my business model is the simplicity. So people that want to get into the real estate game, want to get into something bigger, but are kind of scared and don't know where to go. Storage yards is a great start. It's just more simple. It's more understandable. Think about it. You got a fenced in yard. How many things can go wrong? And then with us helping you through the whole way from A to Z, it just makes it a beautiful investment and to change, honestly, your family's lives and your future. So, I mean, I don't know. Storage yards I'm bullish. I'm all in because it changed my life, and now I'm just trying to do it for others.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's a great point that you brought up. And I know, we mentioned in the beginning, and I said, we haven't ever really talked about this topic of storage yards before, and kind of what they are and what all goes in and why they can be a great opportunity. Have you noticed that it's been picking up, that the industry is getting, busier with this since you've got started in it? Or what do you see from kind of like a competitor standpoint? Have you noticed a lot more people are investing in this, or what does that look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they're hearing about us, are reaching out and they want to learn more. Like there's definitely like a spike of excitement when they hear about it. And there is a few people doing it. And in the US, there's actually people doing it before me. So I'm not, a maverick. I mean, I was kind of crazy to go in Canada, but it's not the newest concept, but I think I'm doing it differently, and I'm very innovative with it. And obviously I have a bigger vision to really scale this. So, that's a little bit about the competition. And yeah, it's not something that everyone's getting into for sure.
Yeah, no, and I think that's like you mentioned, some of the other investment opportunities we hear could be getting more popular, or a lot more people are doing it. So that's great to see that this, that you could get in on something that's really, at the beginning, I think, of where it could really take off. Do you have any predictions for the future of what the future of storage yards is going to look like? Give me a crystal ball.
Yeah, the crystal ball. I mean, look, I kind of feel like I build my future. So the future of us with Longyards is like, if you just think about these two problems. Is there land out there? Yes. Is there a shortage and a supply and demand issue for what we're doing? Yes. We are working on bringing those two worlds together and solving a big problem. So I want Longyards to be local to most communities of a population of over 50,000, not just in the States, but internationally. So it's a big vision. It's a big goal. And I mean, we went from a few locations to now over 12 in the pipeline in a short period of time. And we just want more people joining us on the mission and making it happen. So yeah, I think it's an education process from the top. People kind of seeing, oh my God, this is an opportunity, because self-storage took a long time. There's the pioneers who kind of reap up and clean up at the beginning, and then everyone else kind of comes behind. And it's like, oh, this is a cool opportunity. Well, we're first in line, and we're so innovative that we're staying ahead of the competition, even if there is some, which I'm not seeing at this point. So, but honestly, getting into it, it's not easy. And that's why a lot of people might be like, this is exciting. And then it's like, yeah, some pieces are $1 million an acre, or you go through 2 years of entitlement and you find out you can't do it, or you have to widen the road, which is what we had to go through on one of our first US locations. And it's just like, it's not easy. It looks fun, but it is not easy. So that's why the competition isn't popping up everywhere, because there is pain points going through this. And we've been working slowly to, untangle those cobwebs and just make a process out of it all.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the important thing to note too, is like, hey, like you mentioned, nothing worth having ever comes by easy. Like, don't think that you're just gonna sign up for this and then it's like, okay, nothing I need to do. Like it's gonna be all good. There is stuff that you have to deal with. There is stuff that's gonna come up, but it's gonna be worth it, especially if you know what you're doing and know how to handle all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know any other way. Just get it done.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. Well, I want to thank you again so much, Chris, for hopping on with me today, for sharing a little bit more about what you do, letting us into your world of storage yards and why they're such a great opportunity, and let people know again how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Yeah, just go to longyards.com and you could fill out a form and learn more there, or shoot me an email, clong@longyards.com.
And thanks again, Chris, so much for your time and for sharing everything with us. It was really great talking to you today.
Thanks, Allison. Appreciate it.
And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back with you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.